hope in the age of crisis. For our Bible readers, our reference text for this discussion can be found in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verses 1 through 10, known to some as dry bones in the valley. Today and tomorrow, there will be thousands of celebrations of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. We too join in celebrating the tremendous accomplishments of Dr. King and the civil rights movement. As bad as things are today, they are magnitudes better because of his life, his work, and his sacrifice. When we remember and celebrate Dr. King, we also celebrate the thousands of less famous and even perhaps unknown who toiled with him in the struggle. Without their work and sacrifice, there would have been no movement. Today, in this celebration, we will not lift up the toothless, scrubbed, and anesthetized Dr. King as created by mainstream media and the ruling elite. But we will uncover the real Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and his vision for economic equality. In 1963, during the March on Washington, Dr. King gave an address that included a short section about a dream. But in the same speech, he declared that America had written the Negro a bad check, that the check had come back stamped insufficient funds. To paint him with only the hope that we could all just get along does his legacy a disservice and confuses Dr. King with Rodney King. The real Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. should not only be celebrated, but the celebration should inspire us to resume the work for which he lived and died. The March on Washington was a march for jobs and freedom. I quote from Dr. King, "We are not coming to tear up Washington. We are coming to demand that the government address itself to the problem of poverty. If a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty nor the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists." Dr. King had a dream, and the dream had a fundamental economic component to it. He was talking about jobs and income. Though written in the vernacular of his age, using words like Negro and slum instead of African American or urban core, Dr. King's statements ring as true today as they did when he spoke them some decades ago. And again, I quote, "You can talk about solving the problem of the Negro. You can't talk about solving the problem of the Negro without talking about billions of dollars. You can't talk about ending the slums without first saying profit must be taken out of the slums. And when you do that, you are really tampering and getting into dangerous ground. You are messing with captains of industry. Now, this means that we are treading in difficult water, because it really means that we are saying that something is wrong with capitalism. There must be a better distribution of wealth, and maybe America must move toward democratic socialism. These are the words of Dr. King. So to be perfectly clear, in case you wandered into the wrong MLK celebration, that is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that we are remembering, celebrating, and talking about up in here, up in here. Dr. King understood, as we must understand, that formal and legal prohibitions against segregation and racism did not and do not end racism. Why? Segregation, racism, and the need to keep the 99% fighting against each other is profitable to the 1%. As long as we maintain their racial myths, as long as we are more worried about welfare queens than corporate exploitation, as long as we keep blaming ourselves and scapegoating each other, we won't come together and demand government intervention in restoring our homes, our jobs, and our retirements. Racism is a tool of economic domination. Racism hurts people of color the most, but it hurts white people who are in the 99% too. And in case you haven't figured it out, 99% of you are in the 99%. Remember Dr. King's quote, "If you don't take the profit out of the slums, you will never end the slums." That idea becomes truly dangerous because when we can identify our problem as systems of property and profit and the inequality they create, we can move from being divided and conquered to a position of solidarity and great power. Dr. King questioned the profit motive as the primary organizing principle for the human community. How is that system working today? The United States incarcerates more people than any country in the world, both per capita and by raw numbers. Those inmates are disproportionately people of color, and they now drive the prison for profit industrial prison complex. The income of American workers has been stagnant for more than 30 years, while corporate profits have gone through the roof. Our tax system has become a system of extraction from labor and the pockets of working people to the profits of corporations and the wealth of the elite. 1/2 of all of the world's population lives on less than $2.50 a day. Our planet and the human race rushes toward catastrophe, yes, even extinction, because profit and private wealth trump our very survival as a species. Trillions of dollars that could be used to build and unite humanity are wasted on bombs and war. It is done because deadly force is required to maintain this global system of profit no matter the cost. This system is evil because it serves God with a small g at the expense of creation and 99% of the human race. So what does a new economy look like? It must create true racial equality at its foundation, and not as some possible byproduct of imaginary market forces or rising economic tides. It must reject the assertion that the market is the solution to justice or for providing for basic human need. It must require that every person be housed, fed, clothed, and educated, from preschool to graduate school. It requires universal health care. The new economy must invest in the creation of public jobs to repair this nation's crumbling infrastructure and conversion to environmental sustainability. Our youth must be educated, and our elderly must be cared for. We must produce good, necessary, and meaningful jobs that sustain us as a civilization and build the beloved community. It is unacceptable that anyone would work every day and remain in poverty. Today, Wall Street and the concentrated power of the banking industry serve no one but themselves. We must seriously look into public banking that is accountable to the people. We must make corporations accountable to the largest community. We must utterly end the corporation's ability to influence our democratic process and our government. How will this dream come true? How will it come true? Thank God for the words of Ezekiel. The Lord commanded Ezekiel, "Speak to the four winds." And so I prophesied, and as he commanded me, and breath came upon them, and they stood as a vast and marching army. We must stand. We must stand together. Sly Stone said it best. Sly Stone said it best. Stand. There's a cross for you to bear. At least if you're going anywhere, stand. You've been sitting much too long. There's a permanent crease in your right and wrong. Stand, 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 stand. We must stand. And if we stand together, the wind will blow, and the breath of Martin and Malcolm, and Mandela will fill our sails, and we will set ourselves free.